Everybody, I'm going to be talking about chapter 5, going through that with you. Chapter 5 is about critical thinking and reading and writing. And so the elements in this particular chapter are incredibly important, not just for this particular class, but also for just life in general, knowing how to critically think about what you're reading and also how to write is going to benefit you no matter what you do. So let's jump into it. The first thing is, what is critical thinking? It's, not just passively taking in the text, it's actively reading the text, analyzing the text, evaluating the text, and synthesizing all your information from the text. So that includes like questioning what you read. As you're reading through it, maybe you're formulating some questions in your head. That may lead you to the next bullet point, which is evaluating the credibility of your sources. And maybe you're saying, okay, why is this person writing this? And is what they're writing actually true? Is it a fact or an opinion? Then it's really important to identify the main ideas and supporting details. So say, why is this person writing what they're writing? That's the main idea. And then supporting details. They can't just say cell phones are bad. There needs to be evidence and support for their position. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to believe what they're saying. Recognize the bias and the different perspectives. So a really great piece of writing would include the other side of the argument. They would acknowledge the other side of the argument. They would say, some might say, cell phones are great infrastructure or whatever. But here's why they're not. And make informed judgments about what you're reading. Don't just necessarily say, here's what I'm reading. I'm accepting everything as fact. I'm accepting that the person who's writing it is an authority on the topic. This whole questioning, it's called recursive questioning. As you go through, you're just questioning, is critical thinking. And it's something that we need, obviously, in this class, but in the real world, too. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because we all hear about like fake news, right? Misinformation is information that is put out there incorrectly. It may not have a malicious intent behind it, but it's just not true. That's like somebody sharing Facebook posts about the weatherman controlling the weather. That's just not true, right? Now, disinformation is when somebody shares information with a malicious intent, and that's, accusing somebody of a crime, for instance. So just keep in mind, all of this that we're going to talk about is applicable to everyday life. So when you read something, the first thing you want to do is identify the audience, the purpose, and the tone. So the audience is who are they writing for? Are they writing for parents? Are they writing for anybody? Are they writing for professors? The way that they write is going to for whom they write is going to dictate the purpose and the tone. So if I'm writing to parents, my purpose might be to persuade them to allow or disallow their students or children from using phones so much. My tone is going to reflect my audience. It might not be insanely formal, like when I write apologetic, but it's also not like completely slanging, right? I have to have a nice balance between the two. When you're writing an academic writing, your tone should be formal. You should not be using any slang or informal word choices, that kind of thing. Now, the purpose of what you write in this class will depend on the topic that you chose. So some of you are going to just be informing me about a particular instance. Some of you are going to be trying to persuade me about something. And that's kind of what you do when you read a text. You're like, what is the purpose of this? Who are they writing it for? Why are they writing it? And what is the style? And is the style appropriate too? And going off of that whole tone issue is connotations and figures of language. So connotations are the like emotions attached to a word. And so word choice becomes really important here because when we say, oh, she retreated back into her house, we're just like, that's very formal. That's very academic. But if we say she retreated back into her home, now we have this association of the home as a place of safety, and the person is retreating into this place of safety. So now we're like paying a little bit more attention about what's going on in the story or whatever it may be that you're reading. Figurative language is non-literal expression. So that would include the metaphors, the similes, and the personifications. So using these would be appropriate if you are writing some kind of narrative or descriptive essay. And then it can also sometimes be appropriate in an argumentative essay or comparative essay. It just kind of depends on your purpose, right? But do not forget that adding all of these different elements and good word choice adds depth and nuance to your writing. You want somebody to read what you're writing all the way through. You don't want them to read the first sentence and be like, nope, I'm not. You want them to read all the way through. And so as we are reading text, whether it's from a textbook or someone else, we have to say, are these authors using figurative language? Is there a metaphor thrown in there? Is there a lot of connotations thrown in there? And so identifying the main idea, the way you do it is you look for the thesis statement. It is often the last sentence and the introduction. That's traditionally where it is, not always, but traditionally. And that is honestly the most important sentence in the essay. It's going to tell you exactly what is going to be discussed in the text. Then you also want to look at the body paragraphs. The first sentences of the body paragraphs will also tell you, okay, this essay is going towards banning cell phones. This is what I'm picking up based on the thesis and the topic sentences. The way to practice this is whenever you have read something, try to summarize the main idea in one sentence. And that can be kind of tricky depending on what you're reading. Like if it's a novel, that might not be super feasible, but it's going to challenge you to really condense down all of those ideas into, yes, this is exactly what they're talking about. They are talking about banning cell phones in classrooms. And then that brings us into the major and minor supporting points. So as you read through the essay or as you are writing your essay, you have to back up what you're saying. You can't just say, believe me, cell phones should be banned. People need to know that you're an authority in this. And the way you show you are an authority is through the major and minor supporting points. So I'm just going to briefly let you look at that for a second and go on to here, evaluating the writer's idea. So one key is to, as you're reading, say, is this a fact or is this an opinion? If it's a fact, is it a fact that can be fact checked? If it's an opinion, is it somebody who is an authority on the topic? Or is it just some random Joe Schmo writing about it, trying to rile everybody up? Look for logical fallacies. That's kind of the whole concept of, well, this particular, I'm just going to go off my meteorologist example from earlier, but this particular meteorologist tweeted out or X'd out a picture that is AI generated. Therefore, all meteorologists use AI generated content and nothing they do is original. So I'm taking that like one little thing and extrapolating all sorts of craziness from me. Right? We don't want that. We need to watch out for. But at the same time, we also want to consider alternative viewpoints. So if you are arguing for the banning of cell phones in classrooms, you need to acknowledge that there's going to be people who disagree with you. When you acknowledge them, they're going to be more apt to listen to or read you and can take into account what you're saying. So I know there are some people, formally, I know there are some people who disagree. Here's why you should agree. And it says, remember, being critical does not mean being negative. It's just being thoughtful about what you're reading and making sure that what you're reading and what you're writing is putting out good stuff into the world, right? Actual facts or opinions that are backed up with a lot of good supporting detail. So when you read critically, here are some strategies that you can use. Preview the text, just give it a quick little scan of the title, any kind of headings, any images that you see, and then ask questions as you read. That kind of brings us in quickly. Make annotations and highlights. So what I like to do when I read is underline and then write out maybe a quick little thought here or there. If I'm not sure about something, a question mark. If I really like something, I usually box it in and do an exclamation. Everyone kind of has their own little thing, but as long as you're annotating in some way and engaging with the text in some way, that's what we're looking for. And then, like I said earlier, summarize the main ideas in the room. So again, when I'm reading through text, usually it's every paragraph, I will stop and just jot out a few words and to decide about what the meaning of it is. And then it says connect new information with prior knowledge. So if I'm talking or if I'm reading about banning cell phones in classrooms, I'm going to be very connected to that topic because I'm a classroom teacher. So I can kind of annotate and write out to the side, like, yes, this actually happened, or no, I've never seen that in the classroom, whatever it may be. When you write politically, you want to make sure that you are addressing all aspects of the prompt that you choose, and that when you do research, you are researching from a reliable source. Not necessarily Wikipedia. It's an encyclopedia or somewhere that has been fact checked numerous times, and nobody can go and edit without being fact checked. You want to ensure that you have a clear thesis statement, which you should by now. And the informal outline that you guys make will help you organize your ideas logically. Then that's where you go in and you start plugging in evidence to support whatever you're trying to say. And you can get that information from a variety of ways. Of course, we want to always acknowledge the other side, and then we want to revise and follow for clarity and coherence. So what I always like to say throughout many years is read the essay or whatever you bring out with. You will catch a ton of errors that way, including grammar. Even better, if you can, get somebody else to read it out loud to you. And then you will be like, oh, wait, no, I didn't actually quite mean that. Let me go and fix it. I think this is super effective. So bringing this all together. Synthesis is taking, okay, what I've read and writing about it. And you will need to do that coming up in your discussion questions. There's some text that you're going to be reading, and there's some questions that you're going to be answering from the text. This also will pop up in your midterm and your finding the theme, where you're going to have some text, and you're going to need to read it critically and then write about it. And so those are just some pointers for you. So again, if you have any questions or need any assistance, please feel free to reach out.